All right, well, thank you all for joining us this morning. My name is Christy Berger, and I am the Director of Social, Emotional, and Behavioral Wellness here for the Department of Education. Previously to coming to the Department of Education, I worked as a school counselor and a school social worker for 10 years. And so, social emotional learning, mental health are passions of mine. And I'm so excited to be here with all of you this morning and glad that you chose to spend your morning with us. Hopefully, we'll give you a ton of information that will be helpful for you as you process through our current times, but also get some additional support in your well being and encouraging your happiness journey. So, we're going to go ahead and get started. If you guys did not notice, at top there is a bit.ly to this presentation. So, that link we will put in the chat box several times, but that link will give you access to these slides. We are going to go very step by step into the Moodle process and how to enroll. So it might be something you want to come back to. So please make sure that you jot that down. We'll put it in the chat boxes several times and have it again at the end. So we'll go ahead and get started. Jess, next slide, please. So our objectives today is we're going to talk about how you're going to enroll in the Science of Happiness class via Moodle. So Moodle is different than Elvis. It's different than your current school login. It's a different account. So if you do not have a Moodle account, you will have to set that up and get an email to confirm that, which again, we'll talk about again here in a few minutes. If you already have your Moodle account, you can actually walk side by side with us this morning and get enrolled. We're going to talk about what you will learn during the course. We'll talk about some supporting resources that you could help extend learning if this becomes a passion of yours. And then we'll show you how to get your 45 PGP certificate, which is very important, especially during renewal time. Next slide. So the Department of Education has prioritized educator wellness for a while. Dr. McCormick and her senior leadership team went out to Yale University and met with Dr. Laurie Santos, who created a course similar to this for Yale students as they were seeing the number of students die by suicide increasing daily. And so she wanted to provide a class for her college students to make sure that they were being realistic with expectations. They were understanding the science behind happiness and wellness. And so Dr. McCormick and her team met with her and we received permission to continue on and make an Indiana specific course. So you will go to the website up above is one way to enroll, www.doe.in.gov/SEBW, and you'll see a video, and then below it, it will say enroll here, and that will take you to Moodle if you don't already have the link to Moodle. So that's another way to enroll, but we added one of our favorite quotes from Dr. Sines, that there's no better tier 1 intervention than an encouraged, enlightened, and healthy teacher. And we truly live by this. We feel as though if we don't have the best well adult in front of our students, then how can we ask our adults to help our students if they too are not well? So our course here is to help provide you along with that journey. Next slide. So the enrollment process. So once you've gone to moodle.doe.in.gov, or followed it through the Enroll Now here on our link, you will be brought to this page. It will ask you to log in with your username and password. So a couple things here, if you're like me and you have a ton of accounts and sometimes you forget your password, you can hit lost password and it will set you up to find your password. If you already know your information, you go ahead and log in. But if you need to create a new account or it's been a while since you've been on Moodle, we're going to go through what it looks like to create an account. So you'll see once you click create account, it'll tell you to choose your username and password, and it'll ask you for additional details. And those details just help us give you the information that you need. So once you have signed up, that's the email that we'll use to send you information. So please make sure it's a current email. And then you'll hit I'm not a robot and click on create my new account. Once you have actually logged in, so again, if you created a new account, it will send you a confirmation email. So if you had to do that right now, it takes about 30 minutes to send you that confirmation email to activate your account. But if you already had the account, you'll sign in. You'll see a welcome from Don Gilroy, and then you'll see the course categories. The first one should be the Science of Happiness. However, if you're not seeing that right away in Moodle, you can go to search courses and type in the Science of Happiness. You click on that link, and then you'll see the screen about enrollment options. You'll see the Science of Happiness, you'll see myself and Holly as the teachers, and you'll see that it's self-enrolled and there is no enrollment key required. Some of our Moodle accounts, you have to have a password. This one you do not. So you will just click Enroll Me, and it will enroll you automatically into the course. After you have been enrolled, your homepage will pop up like this. So you'll see up top, the Science of Happiness, an important note. So that note really talks about, we use a lot of YouTube links, we use a lot of outside sources. And so just making sure that you have access to all of that. We know if you're doing this at school or on a school device, sometimes those YouTube links don't work because they're not permitted. So we have a guide to walk you through making sure all the videos will work for you. So then you'll see on the right, the list of the modules. So there are 9 total modules. There are 7 that are content, and there's an introductory and a final activities at the end. So once you've started, go ahead and click Jess, and you'll click on the introductory module. This is what you will see. It'll say, welcome to Indiana's Department of Education, Science of Happiness course. It will all be in Google Slides on your screen, and you will click through the slides. Within the slides, you'll see articles, you'll see possible videos, you'll play those, you'll read those, and you'll move through the slides. So the first introduction module will have a variety of things. The things that you need to note is that we have created a journal to go along with the course. The journal is, if you would like to use it, it kind of helps with following along. There'll be several times where we say reflect in your journal, but maybe you use a personal journal already, and that's great. So go ahead and use that. That is a Word document. So some people who have older Word versions, I've gotten an email or two that they've not been able to download it correctly. So if you shoot me an email, I'll send it to you as an attachment so that you can have that if you would like. Again, we have the list of URLs for access. So if you have anything through YouTube that's blocked through your internet or your school's internet, we'll just teach you how to go around that. There will be a pre-survey. So this is something that Butler has created, as they were our partners in this work. And it's really just to get us a baseline on where you are before you start the class. So how would you rate your level of happiness? How many years have you been in the field? Just information to help you. And then at the end, we'll have an exit survey to see how you grew. And then there'll be a PERMAP model, which is what the course is built on. I will say, as people have been enrolling in the course, if you use your phone or your iPad, you may have some limited access to things. So I would suggest, if able, to use a laptop or a desktop to go through this course so that you can see all of the articles and resources that are needed. So on the next slide, we're going to talk a little bit about kind of the foundations of the Science of Happiness. So as I just showed, it's a self-enrolled process. So you'll have to go through Moodle, do the steps that I just showed you, and then you're enrolled. It's self-paced. So it could take you 6 weeks. It could take you 6 months. It could take you a full year. We are not closing the course anytime. We have put it all into Google, which means if there's something we need to update, we will update it and it will automatically update for you. So this is an open course. It's for all. And like I said earlier, it is based off of the Yale course, but adapted in partnership with Butler University. So we worked really closely with Dr. Brandy Oliver, school counseling professor there, and creating this course. As of date, we have about 3,300 educators enrolled. And again, as we shared, there are 45 PGP points offered for this course. Next slide. So our intended audience, this primary audience for this course is educators. And that encompasses your paraprofessionals, your school counselors, your social workers, administrators, bus drivers, anybody that comes in contact and is with kids every day in a school building. This is for them. Please know that we do use the language teacher and educator interchangeably. And so that is not to offend, but that's really just to encompass the whole school community. But really, this course could be for parents, it could be for community members, after school participants, if you have some youth serving professionals, DCS, we have a couple of our DCS education liaisons who partake in this course. It really could be for anybody and is intended for anybody that has an email account. They can sign up. We've had people outside of Indiana sign up. So if you have some friends or colleagues that you would like to share this with once you've completed, please feel free to do so. Our ultimate goal is to create a course for high school students. For them to have this before they leave our space would be such a key to hopefully success on their journey outside of school. And so our hope is to have this created for high school students in the near future. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Jess.
All right, thank you, Christy. And just for those of you who are putting some notes into the chat box, keep doing that. Luckily, we have Dawn and our coworker Lisa, who are kind of manning that, and we'll follow up with you individually if you're having trouble accessing the site. We're going to continue talking about kind of what is within the course and what you will learn. But after the webinar, if you have follow-up questions, you'll be walking away with our contact information. So you will be able to reach us if you're still having trouble accessing the Moodle and getting logged in. We'd be happy to follow up with you. So this visual that you see is what we call the PERMA model. And we're going to talk about the extra P there at the end. But PERMA is an acronym for a model of well-being. And this was put forth by Dr. Martin Seligman. He's done a lot of research on this. Just what does it take for a human, for an adult, for a child to be well, and what are kind of the keys to happiness? So you'll see the first P stands for positive emotions and personal strength. The E stands for engagement. The R stands for relationships. M stands for meaning. A, accomplishment, and then the last one we're adding on physical well-being, exercise, and sleep. Because really, you know, if you are trying to create engagement and work on your relationships and find accomplishment and meaning in your life, all of that is going to be a lot harder if you are not tending to kind of your biological needs and things that kind of set us up for success every day. And those things are getting a good night's sleep, making sure that we're moving our bodies and not living a sedentary lifestyle, but then also looking at kind of how are we nourishing our bodies? What are we putting into our bodies? All of that is key to happiness, believe it or not. I know we kind of talk about it a lot, but it's definitely something that goes into kind of your overall well-being. So on the next slide, you will see within each module, kind of what are the key questions or what are the things that you will be learning in each of the modules. Christy already went over that introductory module, kind of what will happen there. But the first module, the main question is, what could be the cost of caring about your students? As educators, as youth serving professionals, we wake up every day thinking about, you know, our kids, but there's a cost to that. So this module really goes into answering the question of what is secondary or vicarious trauma. Really, that means that we are carrying the things that we hear our students struggling with every single day. So how do we take that in? How do we deal with that? It's a really important question. I think a lot of educators are talking about these days and trying to work through. Module 2, we'll talk about positive emotions and personal strengths. If you're familiar with our social emotional learning competencies, you'll know that insight is one of our main competencies, and we're trying to get students to understand their strengths and build upon those strengths. So we too need to do that as well. So learning about how do I apply my strengths within my own life. And then the third module is engagement. And within that module, one of the things that you will learn is the concept of flow. So what does it mean to be in a state of flow? So if you think about your own life and the last time you kind of lost track of time, what did that feel like? Why did that happen? Really reflecting on some of those moments and thinking, how do I create more of that in my life? And maybe am I spending too much of my time on things that do not allow me to increase the flow and the engagement in my life? So those are the first 3 modules, including the introduction module. Starting in module 4, we'll take a deep dive into relationships because that is a big key point of how do we make ourselves happy. Well, we know that social connection is critical to happiness. We are connected humans. We're struggling with that right now because we're having to change the vehicle and the method to which we connect. But really, it is a key point in happiness. So how do we create a quality relationship? What does a quality relationship look like? How do we assess our relationships to make sure that those relationships are are good for our own well-being. And then within Module 5, looking at meaning. So within this, you'll learn a lot about mindfulness practices, and you might have started to dive into that, knowing that the research behind mindfulness within schools and how it can be critical for students, but it's also critical for adults as well, and educators. So how can we use mindfulness to kind of get into a deeper sense of what it means to find meaning, and what are those things that actually bring us fulfillment? A lot of mindfulness practices can help us determine that. Then within Module 6, talking about accomplishments. So think about, when was the last time, and I was an educator for 6 years, so I can relate to this when I think back to my own time. When was the last time you really took credit for something and said, I did a really good job with that? I think it's hard for educators because we're so busy and we're moving so quickly that sometimes we don't stop to think about our sense of achievement and the things that we are accomplishing, and take some time to celebrate those. And then the last one, learning about that mind-body connection. It is the last module, but if you're thinking about these in order, that really is kind of the basis to our happiness. We've got to make sure that our minds and our bodies are connected and ready for the day, so that then we can start working on meaning, accomplishment, relationships. So definitely don't skip over that module 7, because I think there are some really important points in there, and maybe some information and research behind kind of the benefits of sleep and exercise and nutrition that maybe you hadn't considered before. So that was an overview of all of the modules, what you will learn within the Science of Happiness by the time you walk away. So we wanted to put a plug in for this document. And if you were able to access our slides, make a copy for yourself, you will be able to click this hyperlink that says click here. You won't be able to hover over it on the webinar, unfortunately, but if you access the slide, you will be able to. That will take you to a document that are 10-minute conversation starters if you are interested in kind of looking at this as more of a professional learning community opportunity, whether that's for your grade level. Maybe it's for your school. Maybe it's for an entire district, or maybe it is just for a group of educators that are passionate about personal well-being. I think this currently, in this time of physical distancing, we're hearing a lot from schools that they're trying to find ways to connect, and this could be a great opportunity for you to connect with your coworkers. So if you're interested, those conversation starters, really it's just a summary of all of these modules and kind of some thoughts to consider if you were to embed this within a PLC model. I did this actually in Wayne Township. We did a pilot with a group of educators at one elementary school, and we met every few months after the educators had gone through the course independently on their own. So they took time to process the content, and then we came together as a group and really just talked about the content. Why is it relevant? How did this make me feel? I think that there's power in information, but information is not transformation. We have to find a way to process these things and apply them to our lives. And then also hear from our coworkers about what are they struggling with? Do they feel the same way I do? So we've seen a lot of powerful conversations come out of these professional learning communities. And I'd be happy to, if you're interested in kind of pulling together a group, I'd be happy to hop on a call with you and kind of brainstorm through what that might look like, some things to consider, maybe some additional resources that we've created on the side that have helped us within those PLCs. So feel free to reach out to me and contact me if you have any questions about how those groups could be ran. And I think virtually that would be another conversation that we need to have about what those might look like here in the next few months as well. So I'm going to pass it off to my coworker, Jeff Whitman, who is going to talk to you about some of the things that you'll need to do at the end of the course and how to kind of finish up the course. Jeff, take it away.
Thank you, Jess. As Jess said, I'm part of the social, emotional, behavioral wellness team at the Department of Education. My specific title is school social work and foster youth specialist. So I'm happy to be part of this team and really happy to have this chance to talk with you today. So after you've kind of delved into getting enrolled in Moodle and taking these 7 modules, we're part And the quizzes are designed to not be brain puzzlers, but they're designed just to kind of to reinforce the learning concepts. It really is difficult not to do well on them unless you try to not do well. So just want to make sure that you're aware that those quizzes are there. There'll be 2 10-point quizzes, and you have to score 100% on each of them in order to kind of move through the rest of the course and finish that requirement. There will also be a survey at the end that you have to complete. So we'll kind of show you where that is. There's a QR code that you can access that survey for. So not only are you finishing the modules and you're doing the quizzes, there will also be a there's a component called a personal happiness plan, and that really is just the application of the concepts that you're going to learn throughout, and then what you think is going to be your takeaway, your plan for how to implement them in your life. I know when I did this course a long time ago, I was part of the kind of the pilot group. The way I thought I was going to apply the information was different than actually how I applied it. So you may find yourself going back to that plan and saying, "Wow, that really wasn't how it turned out to be easiest for me," and I'm going to modify my plan. But these three components of taking quizzes, doing the final survey, and then also a submission of the happiness plan are required to complete the course and get your PGPs. Next slide, please. And then once you get to the point of having completed everything, all your courses, all of the surveys, tests, and so on, you'll get to a slide that says, "Congratulations, you passed this course." And so what's important about that is kind of at the top of that course, there is a PGP will pop up. And it'll pop up in the term of kind of eventually you'll get a PDF saying you received your PDF.
No kidding. They will.
I'm hearing some background noise. Can someone please mute? Thank you. So when you get to this page, you'll see that you've completed the course. You can access your PGPs and you'll get a PDF document. This PDF document will just be used as you renew your license, IDOE, or with IPLA, and it'll just help dictate that you've participated and successfully completed this course. As Christy and Jess have said earlier, there's a large chunk of PGPs, 45. So about half of your required PGPs for licensure period can be achieved through doing this course. Also important to note, if you are licensed through the Indiana Professional Licensing Association, this will be a Category 2 type of professional development hour for you there. Next slide, please.
Hey, Jeff, before you go on, this is Christy. We did get the CEU question and the chat box, so can you address that one more time?
So DOE has been really pushing and working hard to get away from providing CEUs. As a state agency, we are allowed to provide CEUs, but we've really been pushing to try to do everything through PGPs. So we're going to try to push everyone towards the PGPs for this. CEUs are going to be more of your actual classwork, conferences that you go to, professional trainings that you pay for, things like that. Those are going to be more of your Category 1 CEUs. And we're trying to push mostly towards PGPs with this work. Okay, so one of the other neat add-ons, so to speak, not only has Dr. Santos given us permission to say, yes, DOE, you can use this content, and I'm happy to have you use it and modify it as you will. So we worked with Butler University and Dr. Brandy Oliver to create this course that we're talking about today. But Dr. Santos also created the Happiness Lab. And that can be accessed through a podcast. And it's can be accessed with this link here. So if you print the slides again and you can access it here. You can also go to the Happiness Lab online and just find it there. And it just kind of reinforces a lot of the work and content that you're going to find and you're going to explore in this course. So an example is I went there this morning, and there's not new content every day, but there is new content several times a week or sporadically. And this morning, I'm sorry, I went this morning, but the content was posted yesterday. And the content was about introducing us to a new podcast that one of her colleagues at Harvard, Dr. Susan David, she's a Harvard psychologist, and she's starting a new podcast called Checking In with Susan David. And it was about 15 minutes long, and some great things that came from it are just like dealing with high emotions of the global pandemic, looking at the concept of emotional agility, the idea of boosting our immunity, this contagion, and this idea that can go on in our society today that causes us to be stressed, or that we can borrow stress from other people's actions and words, and how do we kind of uh, boost our immunity to that. Um, Also, the concept of courage is fear walking. And I thought that was an interesting thing that Dr. David talked about. And then lastly, something I pulled out of it was, who is in charge, the thinker or the thought? I know we can very easily be led uh, down a path where we thought, wow, boy, that wasn't even our thought. We just borrowed that worry and that concept from somebody else. How do we take control of that? So I found these very interesting, not only just professionally, but in our time today, in our culture, in our world pandemic. There's content in this happiness lab that is really applicable to what we're going through now. And there's 4 or 5 sessions in happiness lab more recently that deal with this global pandemic. So I think situation. Next slide, please. Okay, so here's information just about who our team is at the Department of Education, the Social Emotional Behavioral Wellness team. The reason 3 of us are highlighted are we are the presenters, and the other members of our team. Michelle Clark is our school counseling specialist. Jason Murphy, prevention specialist with a lot of experience in suicide prevention, particularly. Lisa Truitt is our state attendance officer and social emotional behavioral wellness specialist. All of us comprise that DOE team. So please do reach out to us. It's never a burden. We wouldn't have a job if it wasn't for you and for the job that you're doing with educating our students. We look forward to the privilege of communicating with you. And it's, as I said, it's never a burden. So please do reach out to us. Next slide, please. Okay, so once again, here is the bit.ly link that we had on the initial page. And please feel free to go there. It will help you download the content of the slides you can go back and remind yourself of the content. Certainly you don't have to, but if you found this useful information or content helpful and feel like you might want to reference it, that bit.ly link will be very helpful there. And so I think what we're going to do is there's one more slide here, and then we're going to go to questions. So next slide, please. So this slide has the QR code that will allow you to access from these slides. Once you download them, it'll allow you to access the survey, the feedback survey for this presentation today. And so we'd love to get your opinions, your feedback on what was helpful, on things that we could have done better. Your feedback's important to us to how we modify and revise things. And again, we feel like we're a team with you doing this work. And so your feedback is an essential part of what we do. So part of what we'd like to get from you today is to glean your observations on, was this time today, was it useful? Did it provide good content? Do you feel like there's useful resources? And that survey form can be accessed through this QR code.
And Jeff, this is Jess. We have, just want to make sure in case anyone is not looking at the chat, someone asked, is there a fee associated with signing up for this program? And absolutely not. This is completely free. Like Christy said, it is self-paced, so you can complete it in a month. You can take several months if that's what it takes. But this is free, and feel free to sign up whenever you feel like there is time in your life to complete this. Are you seeing any other questions?
I have one thing, Christy, before you get going.
Sure.
Um, I just recall taking this course, and I felt like while I've been doing this work in mental health and social work for a long time, what am I going to learn from this? And I did find a lot of new concepts, so there is application there. One of the things that stuck with me that I was able to kind of play back in my mind is this idea of hedonic adaptation, the idea that we think that more money and more um, are going to make us happy. And I think if you reflect on your personal life, you'll probably agree that that's not always the case. And that when we get those achievements or we get those, the more money or we get those items, the house, the car that we think is going to make us happy, we just learn to live with those things and become kind of accustomed to them. And then we're on to the next thing. Conversely, is this idea that sometimes there are things in our life that we think are going to ruin our life and absolutely just devastate us. And if those things happen, it wasn't the end that I thought it would be. In fact, it was a new beginning in just a different direction. So that idea of just putting a concept of hedonic adaptation to how we tend to think, and looking at those things that are going to have more permanent and long-lasting value is kind of one of the things that is reinforced through the Science of Happiness course. So, uh, as a somewhat of a skeptic going in, I emerged on the other end of it as a real proponent of this course being a wonderful tool. Let me jump in.
A couple of questions that came up that I want to walk through again. I'm not sure that I made this very clear. Jess, do you mind going to slide 5? So there's a couple of different ways to enroll, and I think maybe that was a bit confusing at the beginning. So you can go to the Moodle site directly, or you can go to our SEBW page and there's an enroll here sign. So what you will do is once you have logged in, the screen with the blue arrow will come up first, and it will show you here are all the courses in Moodle that you could do. You'll click on the Science of Happiness. That's a link. It's a hyperlink. So you click on that, and then it will open up to the next screen where there's the yellow arrow, and it will tell you, here's your enrollment options. Here are the Science of Happiness course. Here are the teachers, and this is a self-enrollment. There are no keys or passwords required. So you click on Enroll Me here. So just wanted to make sure that you guys saw the distinction between the two. In Moodle, this is where you hit Enroll Me, and on our SEBW page, there's an Enroll Here that takes you to Moodle to set this up. Also, someone talked about their staff, and so Jess shared a lot of districts are looking at doing this as a PLC and really bringing that community together, which we think is great and we think is really helpful for this course. Please make sure that everybody is individually enrolled to get their PGPs. Even if you go along together, each person must be enrolled and work through each activity before you get your PGP. As Jeff shared, there are 3 requirements really to get that PGP, and you will not be able to move on to the next Moodle or the next module until you've completed all the work in that one module. So it will not let you move through until you've completed all that's there. So just wanted to clarify those things. And then it looks like we had a question about the Happiness Lab. Is the app downloaded? So there is, if you Google the Happiness Lab, you can go to their website, but then also you can download it as a podcast, however you listen to podcasts.
And Christy, if you see on the slide that we have up now, the Happiness Lab, you'll see that when you are searching the Happiness Lab within the Apple. So look for that big yellow square.
Yes. Yes. And again, we see the question about school social workers and CEUs. We understand as of now, this is just PGPs, and that those 45 PGPs will count as your category 2, which is more than you need in 2 years. So that will be really helpful for you there. Do we have any other questions? Oh, Sarah, thank you. Is the presentation able to be downloaded from the DOU's website? Once we complete today and we put closed captioning on this webinar, we will post this so that you may see that, but we will put the link to the slides again in the chat box. And so you can click that and have the link to the slides right away. Just put that in here. So that bit.ly will take you to the slides that we went over today, which will really help once you're in that enrollment process to keep referring back. Amber, yes, this is self-paced, so you will be working on this on your own time whenever you find time or feel necessary. We have had some schools previously to our new current way of school, they would do this during their professional development time if their administrator permitted. Any other questions at this time? Again, if you have questions once you're in Moodle, the best thing to do is to email myself or Holly via Moodle. You can message us or you can email us because we're the ones that can get into Moodle and let you know what's missing or what needs to be submitted. And no, listening to the podcast is not a part of the Moodle work. It's just an extension. Sorry, Jeff, go ahead.
And just a further extension is that the podcast I referenced today that Dr. Santos references in her podcast, it's a new podcast, Checking In. And there's an actual sample of it today, or actually it was in the April 6th Happiness Lab presentation, and it was very good. I found her, I found it very pertinent today. So if you're looking for additional content, not only is there the Happiness Lab, but there is Checking In with Susan David, and that's a new podcast that you can access as well.
Great. Do you mind putting that in the chat, Jeff, for those who weren't able to scribble it down? Shelby, your question is advice for leading group discussions as we work through this course with colleagues. So that is what Jess was sharing, those 10-minute conversation starters. So on our website, we have quick questions about each module to kind of facilitate that conversation. So her and one of her colleagues out in Wayne, they used that to help facilitate the PLCs. Aaron, your question is, with all the links, which is step one, great question. We are sending you a lot of information. Step one would be to pull up the slides and start the enrollment process there. And within the slides, there shows you 2 ways to enroll. So Nicole asked, how does she save this chat? I don't believe you can save the chat. We will stay open for about 10 more minutes if you want to copy and paste some of those links. But again, most of the links are within the presentation. So if you have the bit.ly for the Science of Happiness, it is within the presentation. Most of the links are there. The only new thing would be the podcast Jeff just shared about checking in.
And as we said, feel free to contact any of us, and we're happy to share additional content that you may have heard, but couldn't go back and reference from the chat.
Leslie, the Happiness Lab, sorry to be confusing. The Happiness Lab is just for you to listen as you would listen to podcasts. It is not a part of this actual Moodle. It was just an extension if you want that. So that it's something separate, just how you naturally listen to podcasts on your phone or iPad. It's the same there. Great. Well, thank you to those who joined us today. As you start your journey through the course, please let us know if you have any questions as you're going through or you get hung up on anything within Moodle. If you're new there, please reach out and let us know. Again, we'll stay on for a few more minutes, but we will have all of this posted hopefully within the week. So Kelly, your question. Yeah. Kelly, are we able to go through the course on our own and still access it to go through PD with school staff? Yeah, we've seen a lot of administrators or school counselors, school social workers who've been asked to lead this, and they've completed the course on their own first just to know what to share. So you most definitely can do that, pull up the slides and refer for it to your team. But it would be great if you had them all enroll so that they too could get the PGP points for participating.
Yeah, and Kelly, in terms of the PD with your school staff, we have not thus far, though I think you could probably try and let us know how it goes. We haven't seen the group kind of take the course together. It was kind of formatted so that it was more of an individual kind of self-reflection sort of course. but we're open to seeing if that would work. But the way that we have done professional learning communities is that everyone goes through the course, takes the content for themselves, and then after they complete a few modules, then they come together and discuss and kind of take that learning further.
This is Jeff with DOE, and a thought that I had as I went through the course is that it's got great application for ourselves and the learning environment. And of course, we've identified already that we're going to look at developing a version of this for our students. But I also thought there's other ways, and maybe this could be used with some of our parents to encourage them to develop a different way of looking at life and looking at interaction with their students and things like that. So if you are taking this and you decide that there are things that you've learned that you think and be applied in different ways that you haven't heard yet, let us know. Help us to develop these concepts in ways that we haven't thought of yet. I just thought that might be useful because sometimes we can get fairly linear in how we think about things instead of realizing, wow, these can be used in lots of different ways and the applications we haven't thought of yet. So thank you.
Sheila, great questions. Jess, would you mind going to the feedback slide first, so that people have that before they get off to make sure they get their PGPs for today? Sheila, yes, if you do not score 100% on the quiz, you can take the quiz as many times as you need to take the quiz to get that 100. It won't tell you which ones you've missed, but it will allow you to take it as many times as you need. And then, yes, there is a template within by the happiness plan. So when you get to the final documents, it will have the template of the happiness plan, and you just fill in what you would like to fill in and submit that there. It's not graded. It's more of just a completion of the document. And then Dawn did share how you can save the chat. I didn't know that was an option. So if you would like to see how to save the chat, that is in the chat box. And then we are on the slide for the feedback form. So if you scan that QR code, this is where you will go, or we can put the link back in the chat for feedback. The link is in there now. Just put it up there. All right. Well, thank you guys again for joining. Dawn, you want to just stay on for about 2 more minutes so anybody can get what they need from the chat box, and then we can end the recording?